What if I told you you don't need a different curing light for every brand of UV finish? I'm about to show you how to cure 3 of the most popular UV wood finishes with just one light. And by the end, you'll have a repeatable recipe so that you're not guessing whether your finish is cured or not. I'm Pierce with Light and Done, and this video answers the most common question I get. Will your light cure more than clean armor? Stay tuned and I'll show you how. I have a quick disclaimer before we get started. This is not a sponsored video. I bought all 3 of these finishes myself, and I have no connection to either Vesting or Solarez, and I'm not selling their finishes. I do, however, distribute clean armor, so if you've watched my channel for long, you already know that. Let's get into this. Here's the problem with some of the UV finishes out there. It's called brand lock-in. Some companies sell you the finish, then they tell you that the approved light that they sell you is required, or they won't warranty the finish. And suddenly, you're stuck buying their super expensive light that only they endorse. A lot of those lights are wildly expensive for what they are, often costing more than $1,000. Today, it's all about escaping that trap with one UV light that will cure a variety of finishes. Because UV curing isn't a brand, curing is math. My goal is to show you how to build curing recipes that work across different finishes without having to buy their expensive lights. Please stick with me here and pay attention, because this might be the most important concept of the whole video. It's called the inverse square law, and it's how we stop guessing and build a repeatable curing recipe. It all has to do with 2 ingredients, and the first one is distance. Let me show you how this works. We're going to start up here, and we're going to move the light closer. And you see the energy spikes? See that meter? That's why distance isn't a detail. Distance is the first part of the recipe. Now let's add the other ingredient, time. Here's the shortcut. Time and distance scale together. As a general rule, use this. Twice the distance needs about 4 times the cure time. Half the distance needs about 1/4 the cure time. Once you have one working recipe, you can scale it without guessing. I've created some anchor points for each finish so that you have a place to start from. For vesting, I'm working close. My recipe starts the light at 5 inches. For Clean Armor 716, I start at 24 inches, and for Solarez, I'm also starting at 24 inches. As we go through each product, I'll give you the cure timing that matched my results. By the end, you'll have your own recipe that you can use as a starting point to tweak for your own specific applications. In technical terms, the distance, time, and total energy put into your project is called the dose, but we're keeping this less technical for today. All 3 of these finishes are going to be applied on this white oak. 2 coats each with sanding in between. For vesting, I'm going to follow their prep guidance and only be sanding to 120 grit. For Clean Armor and Solarez, I'm prepping to 220. Let's start with vesting LED hard wax oil in a satin sheen. The finish chemistry is different than the others because it's designed around intense energy at a close range for a short period of time. If you try curing this finish using, for example, Clean Armor's recipe, your results will be inconsistent and won't cure properly. That's why creating specific cure recipes for each finish is so important. Remember that you need 2 components for your recipe, distance and time. For the first coat, we work the finish in, even it out, then wipe off any excess so that you're not leaving any puddles. I'm doing this with a paintbrush, but you can do it with almost any type of applicator. Now, we buff it off and check it under inspection mode. I'm looking for one thing, a consistent sheen. If you see shinier areas, those need to be buffed off more. Keep wiping until you see an even sheen across the surface. Remember to inspect, perfect, then cure. Here's the key for curing this finish. It wants high intensity, close to the surface, so the light will be much closer to deliver more energy in a shorter period of time. Distance and time are the whole formula. And I'm going to show you the recipe that worked for me. Let's cure the first coat using slow overlapping passes. This is where the inverse square law is your best friend. At this distance, the surface is getting a massive dose of energy compared to this same light a foot away. That intensity is what makes Vesting's chemistry work with this light. With this product, you may see a slight darkening or yellowing when the finish is fully cured. That color change is exactly what I'm looking for to make sure that we're fully cured. This cure is a single pass for about 15 seconds at roughly 5 inches. That's the recipe we're using going forward and should work for you as well. Let's lightly sand between coats, just to knock down the texture and give the next coat a smooth surface. I'm going to speed this part up so we stay focused on what matters, the curing. Coat 2 goes on the same way. Work it in, wipe off the excess, buff to an even sheen, then cure using our proven recipe. Now that is fully cured. And the takeaway is simple. You don't need a proprietary light. You just need enough UV energy at the correct distance. Next up is going to be Solarez. I can't believe it's not Lacquer. This one's popular because it's fast and it builds a film. Solarez even talks about this finish curing under the sun. So yes, it can be that simple. But if it's winter or your project can't be moved outside, you're going to need a real UV curing light. For the first coat, we're going to brush it on evenly with a foam brush as suggested in their directions, and then let it level for a few minutes. Before curing, I inspect it because once it hardens, you're sanding off your mistakes. It's always easier to fix them now than later. Here's the Solarez recipe I'm using. 24 inches from the surface, 4 minutes per coat as a starting point for curing. Since this is a film finish, I don't suggest getting too close. Most UV films can wrinkle if you cure them too quickly. So for Solarez, we're increasing the time and placing the light further away. Now, we lightly sand and clean the surface. We're not trying to remove the finish, just refine it and create a smooth base for the next coat. Then we go to coat number 2. Same process, smoother results. Again, I'll speed this part up so you don't have to watch it cure. We'll compare all of these finishes at the end of the video so you can see how they turned out. Last but not least, we're going to do Clean Armor 716. You've seen a lot of 716 finishing demonstrations on my channel, so we're not going to dwell on this too much today. I'm including it because it's a perfect reference point and it rounds out the most popular grouping of UV finishes available on the market today. For the first coat, we're going to apply, buff, inspect, and then cure. Simple as that. Coat number 2 is exactly the same, except we sand between the coats with some 600. That's the whole rhythm. Build as many coats as you want, but I find diminishing returns after about the 3rd coat. My 716 workflow is simple. Start your light around 24 inches from the surface for 120 seconds. You might see me move the light in a little closer to speed up the process in some of my other videos. This really locks in the finish, and I have perfected this method over time because you cannot over-cure Clean Armor. If you stick with the 24 inches, you won't go wrong. Here's a pro tip. Don't use this recipe for any other Clean Armor products. 716 wiping varnish has a different chemistry than the other products like the 700 or the 757. They have their own curing recipes. Now let's finally look at all the results side by side. If you want to purchase the Pro Model light I used in today's video, head over to the Light and Done website. While you're there, you can also grab my free UV Curing Light Buyer's Guide to give you the confidence to make the jump from traditional finishing to UV. Happy woodworking, and I'll see you in the next video.